Florida kidnapped migrants and brought them to California.
That's why sanctuary policy is so foundational and so important.
You do not believe that Russia taking over Ukraine would be bad for our national interests.
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson.
Gavin Newsom throws it down versus Ron DeSantis in a huge bout with hypocrisy. Vivek Ramaswamy versus Ukraine. Tucker Carlson versus Fox News. And have companies finally got the message that going woke means going broke? All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
Here we go!
That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually her name, Jobob.
Bunker completely cut off from the outside world except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in on today. It is June 8th, Thursday, the year of our Lord 2023. A lot of interesting /fun /horrible things to catch you up on, including and not limited to Gavin Newsom's attack on Ron DeSantis for attacking him because just chaos. Also, Tucker Carlson is in an interesting contractual position. He released, we probably mentioned this yesterday, but released a Twitter video, I believe it was Tuesday, and now is facing some backlash from his former employer who hopes to keep him tied up until 2025. Anyways, we'll get to that in just a second because I want to get to this thing right off the bat. Gavin Newsom has thrown a fit. The governor of California, by the way, probably, I would assume, presumptive presidential nominee for the Democratic Party in 2024. It is not going to be Joe Biden. I would imagine that Gavin is probably going to duke it out with Kamala Harris, among other Democrats who are not any good either. I would love to see a Tim Scott or Ron DeSantis versus a Gavin Newsom. I think Trump would wipe the floor with him, but not in the same way. I think on a policy and idea level, either Tim Scott or, honestly, Vivek Ramaswamy or DeSantis would, from a policy standpoint, just embarrass the poor Gavin. Donald Trump would, I think, just best him in a debate also, but not in the same way. You know what I mean? I want to eviscerate people's idea that Gavin Newsom can be a competent intellectual individual. He's relatively smart, but just a dunderhead when it comes to bowing to the political ideology of the time and trying to use that to his political advantage. Anyways, if you missed this story, a couple days ago, there was a plane of quote unquote, I freaking hate the term migrants. My cousin and his wife are migrants. They just moved from California to Montana. People in Montana, in case you're watching this, don't worry. I guarantee you both of them are going to vote more conservatively than you. They're not going to ruin your state, but that's a migrant moving from one place to another within the legal bounds. Somebody coming across the border and falsely seeking quote unquote asylum, not doing it in their original country, then been given court dates 3 years in advance is not a migrant. That is an illegal immigrant. And, well, I'll say this. I guess it is still possible for the administration who's in charge of border security to track all of those people down once their court dates come up in 2027, track them down and deport them, which honestly at that point would be cruel. I honestly think that would be cruel, which is why you have to stop people at the border and just not let the entire world come into the country. Anyways, all that being said, you might have heard this story about a plane being flown into Sacramento and a bunch of illegal immigrants dropped off, asylum seekers, whatever you want to call them, dropped off in Gavin Newsom's stomping grounds. This was the report, I believe, from today, the Today Show, or one of the morning shows. Anyways, watch this so you get a glimpse of what's happening. Then we'll get to the really juicy stuff of Gavin actually on, I believe that's also the Today Show, calling DeSantis names, which is interesting. Politics is crazy. Watch this.
California Governor Gavin Newsom says an investigation is underway now after a group of migrants from Texas were flown to Sacramento without warning. Officials say 16 South American migrants were dropped off outside of a church on Friday. They say the migrants were approached outside a facility in El Paso. They were promised jobs and they were promised travel assistance. But they say they had no idea where they were being taken, that they were going to wind up in Sacramento. The California AG likened the situation to, quote, a state-sanctioned kidnapping.
Dang. So the state of California, which is, it's a sanctuary state, don't you know? The state of California says, hey, we will welcome anyone here with open arms, unless we can use them as a political pawn to call somebody else we don't like mean and cruel. Now, are DeSantis / Abbott also participating in making a political scuffle out of this? Absolutely. But in my opinion, and I think the opinion of most people with two eyeballs that can see, know that, well, California is a sanctuary state. Send everyone there, as far as I'm concerned. Please don't. I live here. I live in California. Unfortunately, I'm working to change it back the other direction. But since it's a sanctuary state, I don't know why every state just doesn't bus everyone that crosses the border to California. That being said, if they can make a political statement, Gavin and the Attorney General of California and all of the other California politicians will hoot and holler and say, this is state-sanctioned kidnapping. Those were the actual words used by the California Attorney General. I want you to watch this clip of Gavin Newsom on the Today Show talking about what he and his statesmen have said and who he's putting the blame on. Now, remember, this flight supposedly came from El Paso. I actually don't know how Ron DeSantis is involved, but I think Gavin is saying, well, Ron DeSantis is somewhat working with Abbott in Texas to fly people to Sacramento. Regardless, it is a fantastic political stunt. I would encourage those two gentlemen to keep doing so. Anyways, watch this. Gavin gets into some interesting territory here. Politics is crazy. Check it out.
These flights of asylum seekers that are being brought to Sacramento, there have been 2 of them now. They've been described as state-sanctioned kidnapping by the Attorney General of this state, of California. You tweeted directly at the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. I want to get this right. You called him a small, pathetic man and asked, quote, kidnapping charges? Is that what you believe happened, Governor Newsom, that Florida kidnapped migrants and brought them to California?
I think I'm being generous, small, and pathetic. Very generous. He's just weakness masquerading as strength. Yeah, he's flailing, desperate for attention. Let's just level set here. Let's level set. Here's a governor from the state of Florida that is using taxpayer money, and he had to go to another state to find people under false pretense. I don't think this, I know this. I talked to the migrants, lied to them, took them into another state by bus, and then took them on a chartered flight to Sacramento, lying to them that they had help on the other side, knocked on the door, and they left these migrants right there on the steps. What kind of human being does that?
Oh, I love it. What kind of human being does it? Now, I want to talk about this caption a little bit up here. Politics is literally just acting nowadays. It is literally an acting class. You know why? Because Gavin doesn't actually think any of those things. When he stands sternly talking to the camera saying, what kind of small, pathetic little man would do that sort of thing? He knows the game. He gets it. He understands the politics being played here. He doesn't believe this. He just hopes that you will believe this. I have some firsthand knowledge specifically on Gavin. Maybe I'll get that into just a little second. But literally, politics is just acting now. Also, the whole idea using taxpayer money to send people to a sanctuary state. Well, okay, so the options are fly them to a state that says, as Gavin says, is open and willing to accept them, or have to feed, house, clothe, medicate, all of the things in our own state. What's a better use of taxpayer money? Zipping them on over to the sanctuary states, says me. Watch this. This continues, and Gavin digs himself into a further hole by, remember, okay, so that tweet he issued said, Ron DeSantis, you small, pathetic man. Kidnapping charges, ? Remember that. Watch this.
Ron DeSantis is going to be landing in this city later this month to hold a fundraiser for his presidential campaign.
Yeah.
Should he be worried that law enforcement officials in this state are going to arrest him when he walks off the plane?
Now we're getting into hyperbole. The bottom line is,
well, just
we're for
respectfully,
accountability.
I mean, I don't think it's hyperbole. You're the one raising the issue of criminality potentially.
Potentially.
Oh, well, let's not. Kidnapping, let's not get it. We're not going to arrest Ron DeSantis for kidnapping. Wait a minute. You just said he was kidnapping people. Isn't that literally what you just said? Yes, it was. But Gavin, again, Gavin knows the game, but he's not very good at it. There's like Donald Trump to me is in terms of the art or the sport of politics. Gavin is a tactician who's not good at the game. Donald Trump, and I understand that this is going back several years, came onto the scene. He knows politics very well now. Came onto the scene not knowing the game, but being a naturally gifted athlete. That's the difference. You always want to pick the best naturally gifted person in a sport as opposed to somebody who knows the game really, really well. They end up being referees. That's how that works out. Gavin knows the political game very, very well. He's tactful the way he does things, and he is bad at it. Just briefly, so I ran a governor's race in California in 2018. Against Gavin. Actually, I've got a clip that's about to play right here about Gavin fawning over sanctuary policy from a debate and an event that my candidate was at, a guy named Travis Allen. Unfortunately, we did not win, but I had a couple run-ins with Gavin. It was actually fascinating. I was sitting in a Starbucks, and I was dumping off footage to a video editor, a guy that I was working with, and I look up. I should have pulled this picture up. I look up, and Gavin Newsom, the then lieutenant governor, is standing directly outside. And I'm like, what is happening here? He walks inside. This is a random Starbucks in Chino, California. And I say, Gavin? Like, what's up? I've had some run-ins with him before. I've always been friendly with him. He's always been friendly with me. I say, Gavin, what's up? What are you doing here? He said, I've got a town hall in Palm Springs. I'm headed out there, doing a couple things in and around. And I said, okay, cool. Like, this is kind of crazy, but, I've been told by everybody you're cordial with everyone, so I guess I'll tell you. I actually work for a guy named Travis Allen. We're running against you, and actually right now, as we talk in this Starbucks, Gavin, we are cutting a hit ad against you. And he said, well, good luck. I appreciate that. Tell Travis I said hi. Then he went and ordered his coffee and went on his merry way. In other words, he is a total pro when it comes to knowing how the political game is played. When you see him get all mad and flustered, know that it's his acting coach coming through and not his passion for the American people. And I say that in some ways respectfully of the man and his ability to muster up some sort of fake emotion in order to be super upset and get on his side's ideological side. Anyways, here's that clip from 2018 where Gavin is fawning over and praising sanctuary policy. And then when somebody calls him on it by sending illegal immigrants to his sanctuary state, he calls it kidnapping. Watch those back to back. Check it out.
That's why sanctuary policy is so foundational and so important. I wouldn't rather be from any other place than the state of California, proudly a sanctuary state.
California Governor Gavin Newsom is accusing the DeSantis administration of committing crimes by sending migrants from Florida to California.
Kidnapping charges? Is that what you believe happened, Governor Newsom, that Florida kidnapped migrants and brought them to California?
Oh, yeah. So there's that. Again, Gavin putting on his best acting face. I am curious how Ron DeSantis is going to handle this. There's a part of me that thinks that Gavin is, well, not thinks, I know Gavin is trying to get more airtime, and that's why he's saying ridiculous things. If I were the DeSantis camp, I either wouldn't take the bait at all, or I would make fun of it. That's, I think, the approach here. Now, my approach generally for everything is to make fun of it. But what I think would not do DeSantis any good, and also would play exactly into Gavin's hand, is for him to come strongly and say, you demanded the blah, 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 blah. No, the response to Gavin calling him a pathetic little man is, yeah, but you said you were a sanctuary state. What else am I going to do? But we'll see if that's the case. I'm regardless fascinated to see a Gavin DeSantis political battle, whether it be in 2024 or later on down the line. Okay, enough of that. How about this? Guess who's back? Tucker Carlson on, I believe it was Tuesday night. You know what? Let me just check really quick to see where it actually stands views-wise. 1 day ago it says, so I think that actually means 6. Yeah, that's so Tuesday night. Tuesday at 3 p.m., Tucker Carlson put this out. So this is not news by any stretch of the imagination. Let me play you what is, just so you can get like 15 seconds of what his show is going to look like. And then we'll go into the legal battles of his contract with his former employer, Fox News. This is Tucker Carlson on Twitter. Watch this.
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. This morning it looks like somebody blew up the Kakhovka Dam in southern Ukraine. The rushing wall of water wiped out entire villages, destroyed a critical hydropower plant, and as of tonight puts the largest nuclear reactor in Europe in danger of melting down. So if this was intentional, it was not a military tactic, it was an act of terrorism. The question is, who did it?
So that's basically it, Tucker. That's how it looks. It kind of looks pretty similar to his Fox setup, obviously not in the big flashy studio. But that, to this point, has 94.3 million views. If you haven't caught on already, I haven't read any comments because I'm recording this the night before because I'm currently, actually right now, on a plane to Dallas. But maybe it's more than that. It's probably going to get to 100 million impressions. Now, as far as views go, I don't actually know. I don't think we necessarily have that data. Elon changed the format of Twitter to where views are counted as impressions, so I don't actually know. But regardless here, there are some problems with Tucker's former employer. This is from Axios. Fox News says Tucker Carlson breached his contract. Fox News Wednesday notified Tucker Carlson's lawyer that the former primetime anchor violated his contract with the network when he launched his own Twitter show on Tuesday, according to a copy of the letter obtained by Axios. Why it matters? A breach of contract claims could set Fox up to explore potential legal action against Carlson, a move that would intensify an already thorny public battle between the two parties. Carlson's lawyers told Axios that any legal action by Fox would violate his First Amendment rights. Just so you know, he's ousted from Fox News. So shortly after he posted the full episode to Twitter, Fox's general counsel sent a letter in breach of contract agreement. Let's see. In collusion. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Their plan, according to Axios, was to keep Tucker Carlson via his contract with Fox tied up until 2027, I believe. Now, there are a lot of non-compete clauses that circulate around these media jobs, well, really any job in general. Well, the last thing that Fox wants is for Tucker to quit and go over to CNN or wherever. Not that he would ever do that. But just hypothetically, go to another network and bring his millions of followers with him, viewers with him. So there's a lot of those non-compete clauses laid out in the contract. Having said that, at the time in which his contract was written, Twitter was still a publicly held company run by either Jack Dorsey or whoever the guy after Jack Dorsey was. I don't even remember his name. But Twitter wasn't a media platform, really. So it could I don't know if this says it in the contract, but the contract could have a blanket, you can't go to any other media outlet, and then lists a bunch of media outlets, mostly in traditional media, probably. And it could be that Twitter wasn't in there. I don't know. Would you, in 2019, if you were restructuring a contract, I believe Tucker Carlson's contract was in 2019, and amended February 16, 2021. Even in 2021, would you foresee Twitter being a media platform outlet? I wouldn't. I would not have put my money on that by any stretch of the imagination. So it's possible that Fox missed that, but at the same time, they just don't want anybody competing. Tucker's argument is going to be that it violates his First Amendment rights, as his lawyers stated, and we'll see how this pans out. I can't imagine that Fox suing Tucker Carlson, regardless as if he wins, if he loses and has to do whatever, pay money, the amount of publicity, free publicity, earned media that he'll probably get from that legal battle with Fox News is more valuable to him than any money that he would lose or any money that he could spend promoting his new show on Twitter. So that's going to be really interesting. I think there are a lot of people that are trying desperately how to figure out how to download the Twitter app on their smart TV so they could watch TV and Tucker Carlson like they used to. We'll see how that goes. Going to be interesting to watch that pan out, but again, we'll all be curiously waiting to see how it works. Speaking of Ukraine, Tucker was talking about a dam that blew up that I believe held water that supplied the Crimean Peninsula. Speaking of Ukraine, I thought this was freaking fascinating. Over the weekend, ABC This Week, Vivek Ramaswamy was on talking about Ukraine. And there's a lot of no more money to Ukraine. There's we need to fund Ukraine and make sure they win this war. Those are kind of the two camps. Neither side, however, the fund Ukraine versus the not fund Ukraine, neither side has had a really straightforward idea of how it then ends. The no more money to Ukraine people, which I tend to lean that way, there hasn't really been a huge swell of, well, what do we do after we stop sending money? What is in our best interest? I don't know. Stopping sending resources over to Ukraine to help them fight the Russians. And then the people on the pro-Ukraine, send all the money, send anything they need side are often perplexed when asked, well, what does an end of the war mean? At what point is the war over? I think there was some crazy statistic that like 95% of wars that last more than a year end up lasting 10 years. So do we then fund the Ukrainian military for 10 years fighting this? I don't know. What is the ultimate end game for those people who want to continue sending money to Ukraine? But Vivek Ramaswamy, again, maybe you don't like him, but I'm an ideas person. I don't care who's carrying the torch of the idea. Made a pretty compelling case on ABC This Week about where he stands and why he has the position that he has. Watch this, and we'll discuss briefly on the other side, but I think he pretty well explains it for himself. Check it out.
Let's talk about Ukraine. You said in a speech in New Hampshire on Friday that you would not spend another dime of American money on a war that does not affect our interests. You don't think the possibility of Russia taking over Ukraine is in our interest?
I don't think that's a top foreign policy priority. But I did also in that same speech identify what is our top priority.
I want to stick to this for a minute. You do not believe that Russia taking over Ukraine would be bad for our national interest?
I do not think it is a top foreign policy priority for us. I don't think it is preferable for Russia to be able to invade a sovereign country that it's its neighbor. But I think the job of the U.S. president is to look after American interests. And what I think the number one threat to the U.S. military is right now, our top military threat, is the Sino-Russian alliance. I think that by fighting further in Russia, by further arming Ukraine, we are driving Russia into China's hands. And that Sino-Russian alliance is the top threat we faced. And what I've said is I would end this war in return for pulling Putin out of that treaty with China.
How do you do this? No one tells Vladimir Putin what to do. That has not worked yet. And you said you would want to give him the Donbass. That would be rewarding Putin, wouldn't it?
I don't trust Putin, but I do trust Putin to follow his self-interest. I don't think he enjoys being the little brother in the relationship with Xi Jinping. And so what I think we need to do is end the Ukraine war on peaceful terms that, yes, do make some major concessions to Russia, including freezing the current lines of control in a Korean War-style armistice agreement.
Ukraine really wouldn't want to do.
Which Ukraine wouldn't want to do, and also a permanent commitment not to allow Ukraine to enter NATO. But in return, Russia has to leave its treaty and its joint military agreement with China. That better advances American interests and actually further deters China from going after Taiwan.
And then he goes on to explain that a little bit. Oh, that's kind of compelling. Again, I would love to hear in the comment section where you stand on this sort of thing. But that is a compelling dang argument and case to be made by one of the candidates for president. Look, if the American president is supposed to look out for what's in America's best interest, yeah, weakening China, and if by that meaning weakening Russia weakening China by way of Russia, that is in our best interest. And if you have Russia and China together, obviously that creates a lot of military problems, a lot of trade problems. But if you just give him what he wants, they can go, well, I hate to sound trivial about that. But if Vladimir Putin ends up with, I don't know, a win in the bag, and then I'm not pro-Putin. I'm just thinking this out in my head here. If that's the case, and Putin goes back to being not even frenemies, but like rivals with Xi Jinping, that seems to be America seems to be in a better standing point. I don't know. Interesting. Fun and interesting to think about. Regardless of what you think of Vivek Ramaswamy, he is a smart young cookie. And will probably be on the political scene for a long time. I can't imagine he thinks he's going to win this cycle, but he is getting all of the airtime he wants, can get. He is probably going to snag a cabinet seat somewhere in the next Republican administration, provided a Republican is able to pull one out of the bag. And will make a future run in the future. Maybe his job, maybe his angle is like Secretary of State. He really wants that job. It's like, honest to God, wow, this sounds bad. I think Vivek is too smart to be the president. As in, I think his talents would be not necessarily squandered, but possibly put to better use somewhere else in an administration. Maybe the Secretary of State is that role. Especially given geopolitics. Sorry. So yeah, fascinating and interesting. We won't get to that Wall Street Journal article about companies finally realizing that going woke means going broke. Yeah. That'll do it for us today. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. If you're in the Dallas area, I am currently on a plane there. This was shot the day before. If you're in the Dallas area and you want to swing by, I don't know where the event is, you can find it. Go to tposa.com/events. You'll be able to find, I think there's the Texas Leadership Summit and the Young Women's Leadership Summit. I will be at both until about Saturday. So if you're in the Texas area, would love to say hi. Also, if you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media platforms. I am feverishly attempting to go back and forth with all of the people that have sent me messages over the last couple of days. I think we're pushing like 250 people. And I really, really appreciate it. But also thank you for your patience in getting back. We are going to have a fun fall, I think. Not fun falling over as the president would possibly do, but a fun fall season. doing the comedy shows. So if you want to attend one of those whenever we come to your neck of the woods, go ahead and follow me on any of the social media platforms. Just type in JOBOB pretty much anywhere. You'll be able to find me. And other than that, that is going to do it for us today. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, different place. We're going to be live from... Where am I? I'm going to be in Dallas. I just said that. Going to be in Dallas. So live from Dallas tomorrow. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. Have a great rest of your day. God bless America.